Get retweeting, lads.
Great ball sent across. Yeah! Thank you! It's a sort of dream! Dream fun! Live it up, blue boy! Live it up!
Well. What do we have here? A big day. A big day for Blues across the globe. This is the Noisy Neighbors podcast. We're going to do a live podcast. Have to go tonight. Got to do something on this because it's been a heck of a day. I've got with me today my two mates from the Main Road Ramble. The other one's not really my mate. So no, he's on his honeymoon. That'd be Joe Ricci.
Mo just walked in like the Joker in the Dark Knight, broke a pool cue and threw it at John and I and said, one of you gets to be my friend.
No, I meant Ricci. Because there are multiple of you. No, thanks for joining me. How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm good. As I told you, Mal, right before we hopped on, I just laid down 6 bags of mulch because that's my life now as homeowner. And it's like 83 degrees here because we went from like 50 and cloudy to immediately hot and sunny and no wonderful spring weather that I love. So,
all right, weather talk. Have you got anything better than that, John?
Yeah, I haven't got any mulch talk. I haven't done my mulching yet. So, no, mate, I'm doing really well. It's not 84 or whatever you said it was up here in Massachusetts. So everyone move up to New England. Very clement right now.
I think I'm going to be visiting the area.
Oh, really?
Over the summer, yeah. Some colleges are interested in my money. So
I enjoy the way that you say that because unfortunately it's true.
Yes. No, my son's looking up in that area, so we will see. No, wow. So yeah, this is just gonna be a live podcast. We will put this out as an audio thing later on. So it's gonna follow the traditional format. I'm explaining this because we didn't have a chance to talk pre-show about how this would go. So this will be your standard Noisy Neighbors fare, 3 segments, no music in between for the YouTube, but it will be on the podcast. So anyways, yes. So as McLovin has started us off with, the Viking has arrived. So that will be topic number 1. Topic number 2, I think we can talk for a few minutes at least about Newcastle. And then in the final segment, a look ahead to Wolves midweek. So without further ado, Vic, take it away.
Meat and potatoes.
Thank you, Vic. So the Bombazo has landed. Who said do the song? Somebody said do the song. You thought I wouldn't have the song.
Haaland, selbst die Bayern haben Angst, bald geht ihnen das ganze Land. Haaland,
come on.
Haaland, gestern war unbekannt, heute feiert ihn das ganze Land.
There you go, Hunter, Hoops Collector. There's the song. Yeah, it all broke. I think it had already broken in England by the time I woke up. It was all kicking off. So I tell you what, Andrew, talk me through your day as we found more and more bits of information out. How did it go for you?
I mean, to me, it's slightly anticlimactic in the sense that I have been fully on board that Erling Haaland is coming to City train for 6 months now. And it's just kind of been waiting for everyone else to kind of get to that same conclusion. And, you know, Jack Gahan has had this from the beginning. I mean, kind of leading it. And now, I mean, between Jack and then I think Ornstein today kind of coming through and, you know, everything broke early enough that by the time kind of my day was starting, the Why Always Us podcast was out, and Sam Lee said kind of they had it last week. They just weren't fully prepared to tweet it out. And then Ornstein, I guess, over the weekend got some stuff. Sam kind of hinted that, like, had he not, he probably would have been in a position in the next day or so. So my understanding is that everyone was in for the Newcastle match because of the finalization of everything. So that's why when you saw the city director's box, literally every city director is here, and that rarely happens. So all the pieces come together, and you know, it's as anticlimactic as I say that it is, it's still an incredibly exciting day, because there is not another transfer like this, I think, in any of our lifetimes that City have pulled off.
Appreciate you pulling the hype train back on the tracks there at the end. John, how did this destroy your day like it destroyed mine? I suppose in a good way. Did you get any work done?
Yeah, I did get some work done just because I'm still not sure how much my employer can see about my online activity during the day. So just have to kind of, you know, casually check Twitter now and again. Yeah, much more on the kind of climactic train and the anticlimactic train that Andrew was on, purely because I just don't, well, and I'm still kind of waiting because I just don't kind of believe it's done until he's holding the shirt. You know what I mean? I mean,
okay, typical.
I believe that
typical.
I believe that it is, but I think I've been burned too many times by City in the last minute, whether it be transfer issues or match management issues. Like, I've been burned too many times. So, but I'm very excited.
Good.
We definitely need this guy.
Yeah. I'm over the 100% mark now. I'm into the 105, 110% done deal. It just makes too much sense. Too many voices in the media. And the ones you want to see talking about it, you know, the whole medical thing today. The one guy who's supposedly really close to the Haaland family has a Scandinavian name.
Jan
Fjortov?
Jaff something.
All of that. Yes. he looks to be saying that it's a done deal to City. So yeah, outside of some, you know, Doctor Strange shit going on, I think that the man is ours, the striking Viking, as Patrick Holly calls him, coming to Eastlands. Yes. Let's hit some of the chat quickly and respond. Frank Pereira, think of all the crosses that will be put in the back of the net.
I just think of that. Someone made that super cut where it's like Kevin De Bruyne crosses, and then they find Haaland goals that where the ball was in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. Obviously, like, it's not exactly gonna, you know, suddenly work out, but it is an incredibly different level of finishing ability and fox in the box style that Haaland will bring. That I think, you know, even though he is big, it's not like he is some striker that just relies on his height. But even then, there is actually someone taller than 5'4" in City's front line finally.
So let's talk about that a little bit, about the way City play, and I'll ask you first, John. You often hear Pep asked about the whole false nine thing. You know, we clearly don't have a recognized striker. Gabriel Jesus probably the closest thing to it, and he plays it a bit differently than a target man, you know. But Pep will tell you that sometimes we play a false nine, and sometimes we play like a traditional nine. It just doesn't look like one. Like, it looks like Phil Foden, so it doesn't look like a, you know, a traditional nine. Yeah. How do you think this will he become the focus or will he just be integrated, or how do you think this will impact the way we play?
I have no idea how it's going to impact the way we play. I just know that it is, and I'm really fascinated to see how it does.
Yeah.
I think, you know, just the inverted wingers that we tend to go with at the moment, that to me seems to be like, I don't know. In my head, I have like the classic De Bruyne across from the right and Haaland getting on the end of it, and
Yeah.
so it's like, okay, we should play traditional wingers then, right-footed on the right, left-footed on the left, and just kind of put those crosses into those areas where Haaland's going to pounce. But then that kind of isn't the way that City have played for the most part under Guardiola, not since 2018, 19. Yeah, not since Sane really had his last full season at City, and so yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work out. It is interesting to see that Sterling has played a bit more on the right recently, and I think some of the best games that City have played have been with Foden on the left, in that traditional left wing position. So I would be interested to see how much wider we get if we go wider than we are right now, because those inverted wingers make us a lot more narrow and you have a bit more overlap. But even that hasn't been happening. Walker doesn't overlap that much. He stays back.
You would imagine, Andrew, that we will continue to see probably 70 to 80% of the time deep defending, right? Low block type defending. It will
I think
continue.
it's going to get even worse.
It might. It might. But yeah, probably 17 out of the 20 teams in the league are probably going to try that. Who would you put on either side of Erling Haaland in those matches where most of the matches in the league are going to be that way?
So I would put Sterling or Alvarez on the right.
Alvarez already getting in. Love it.
Oh, I am. If you want to talk about hype train, this is
nice.
This is a Julian Alvarez. Like, we're fully on board with this. Like, they are a pair made in heaven. I honestly think that against some of the teams, we may see that 4-3-3 kind of just become more of a 4-2-4 or a 4-2-1-3. And I think Alvarez and Haaland naturally pair each other well, but Alvarez can still be kind of a 9 in his own. But I think if you're looking to break down a low block, I would go Sterling on the right, Foden on the left, and then Haaland through the middle. And then you have Sterling and Foden's movement to play off of in swingers that you're going to get from De Bruyne on the right, and then Cancelo coming in from left back to that kind of that far post, that he plays those balls that sometimes are almost unstoppable. And Sterling, as much as you want to criticize him, the one thing he's really good at is kind of the instinctual finishing, where he doesn't have to think about it. And so it's perfect to have him in that spot where he just makes that run and Cancelo just hits the ball to him perfectly.
What are your thoughts on that, John?
Just when you mentioned 4 at the back, I have long been an advocate for City to play 3 at the back, and I'm wondering if this is going to be the moment when it happens. And I'm wondering, just because of a target man coming in, but basically someone that we can put crosses into, and the quality of delivery that we've got from the right and from the left is so good. I'm also wondering, given how successful Walker has been as a right centre back for England, and just the kind of the way that our defense is kind of shaped, with all 4 fit, you've got the Diaz, you've got Stones, you've got Laporte, you've got Arke, and then if you're adding Walker into that as well, I think those kind of more, they wouldn't be quite wingers, they'd kind of be more wing backs. If you had Cancelo on one side, and then you could have De Bruyne on the right, you could have Bernardo there if he stays. Even Sterling could play in that role. They're not required to drop back as deep, because you've got Walker's pace on the cover, and you've got guys who are used to playing, and then you've got Rodri shielding everything as well. So
yeah,
I don't know. Then you've got then you let the 10s, and we've got about 7 10s, can just kind of play in between, the back six if you like, and then Haaland. So I don't know. It's there are so many options, and I'm just really excited to see. It could be that we've perfected this 4-3-3, that we can actually now have certain formations that change for specific opponents now. And I know we did that already, but like we can go through it at the back against a Newcastle or something like that.
Yeah. I like what you're saying, John. It takes me back to the very beginning of the Centurions season when we did play three at the back and had wing backs. One guy that, was the left back. That guy. We used to smash teams like 4-5-0 when we played that way. And what it did was it allowed Pep to play two strikers. And you often saw Jesus and Aguero together. So you could envision Alvarez and Haaland in that setup. The bit about Walker playing centre back, I think definitely an option on the right. But I think if you're going to do wing backs, then I think you would use Kyle as a wing back rather than a centre back, considering how many. That's what they did that season, and it was fantastic.
I think I'm just now I'm more like, basically, if you can play, I want Zinchenko to get more games because I think that left wing back position is perfect for Zinchenko, and because of his delivery and because of his ability on the ball.
Yeah.
You could.
The problem being though that Cancelo,
as a right back, yes.
He's a worse right back than he is a left back.
That's what I'm saying. As a right back in a 4, I don't like him. As a right wing back, I could see him really cooking.
Be a lot more creative. Yeah, interesting. All right, I don't want to ignore the chat. They are full of ideas. I'm trying to stay on topic. Let's see. I
saw one that said, it's the one
time to
that,
steamroll the league and ruin football. I'm way behind on the chat, by the way. That's JRX, yes, or J. What do you think that is? JRX, JR10.
Yeah, JRX.
Maybe it's Richie's burner account that Jill doesn't know about.
I was gonna say the one after that, Mulv. Who's gonna
settle quicker?
I mean, it's Haaland.
Okay, so for the podcast, who's going to settle quicker and start banging them in, Alvarez or Haaland? Andrew, you going for Haaland?
He's got like 80. Like the man has been scoring a goal a game in Europe since he was like 16 years old. Julian Alvarez is an incredible player, but he's not that. Like,
yeah, but Alvarez might not have 8 men marking him.
What that? So. We all saw I don't remember what match it was, but we played, it was Madrid. The first leg of Madrid, they literally had all 11 men inside the box. First match where that happens and it is not a corner. Like, is it the first game? Do we think that will happen in the first game if Haaland starts?
Depends.
Will teams sit that deep?
If it's anyone but Liverpool, probably.
Yeah, probably. Oh, here we go. Oh, we have a Norwegian in the chat.
Hey.
Okay. Ollie
the
Holsby.
Norwegian.
Ollie Holsby. Brilliant.
Is that how you pronounce that letter?
That last one. No.
I don't know how
Definitely not.
I just like to say it's Ollie from Norway and he's wearing a red shirt in his profile picture.
Come on, City Haaland, he says. Thank you, Ollie. Love it.
We always knew that Ole was a undercover City fan.
Jacob Blackie thinks that Haaland in the Premier League is going to be better than Mitrovic in the Championship. That's some shout.
That's a high bar.
100%.
That's high praise.
I don't know what the odds are right now, but if the odds are still okay on 40 goals a season 1 for Haaland in the Premier League, you should say, like, he's going to break the Premier League scoring record.
Wow. Big chat from Andrew. Jacob hopes that Ollie is not at the wheel. Sorry, Ollie.
Good shout.
Oh dear. Let's see what else going on in the chat.
Don't overlook Jacob's other comment, 4th segment, Pep sweater, which was an elite sweater.
That I thought it was photoshopped.
It looks too big for him.
Yeah. And too bright for the weather outside. Like literally the light on the sweater looks
Yeah.
Something. It looks doctored. It's like Der Spiegel's work to me. Oh dear. Steve Talon wants to know how many goals Haaland scores next year. Andrew's already said 40 odd.
Let's see. How many did Salah get? Let's see. Premier League single season scoring record.
It's like 32.
While you're doing that, Alex Mroz of the famous Flying Mroz brothers, the less famous. Be right back. I'm dyeing my hair blonde.
So
would
Salah
too.
got 32 in I think 18-19 is when it was.
Okay.
So I'm going to say 40. He's hitting 40 goals.
Wow.
My thing though, Andrew, is that if he is as good as we hope he is going to be, he's only going to have to play 25 minutes.
The way
he only
Andrew's
needs
talking,
20,
yeah.
He only needs 25 minutes a match to score that many. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. His goal-
Okay, so you're saying he's going to have like a better goals to minutes ratio than Aguero.
The way Andrew's talking, it'll be Haaland in the first half. We'll be 3-0 up, and then Alvarez will add another 2 in the second half. So,
Yep.
So here's an interesting one from JRX. So GD excited. Let's take the chances finally after 2 years. Okay. So I want to talk about this for a minute because this is probably top of Pep's list of issues at the club. And it's just a lack of ruthlessness, a lack of clinical finishing, profligacy, some can say. And yeah, I think if there's one thing in terms of incomings and outgoings, it's probably going to be around that idea of putting the ball in the back of the net. And I have to compare us to Liverpool in this regard because as much as we talk about we don't play with a striker, they don't either. They don't either. I mean, they have some people that play in the middle. They have a Firmino,
but they play with a true forward.
But
in that position, whereas we don't. Typically.
Well, I don't know about that. I think often we do. Often you're seeing Foden there, Sterling there. What they have though is 2 prolific wingers, that come in and play more centrally. I think if our wingers were as prolific as those guys are, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So my thought is, what impact does this guy and Alvarez, who are both, by the looks of it, prolific, have for, I guess, a few things? One, the players that might be pushed out, and 2, the ones that will remain. How will they improve, or will they just be more assisting rather than finishing? What are your thoughts on that, John? Go for me. Go for me first.
So I feel like one of the things that Liverpool do really, really well is that they take a lot of chances out of nothing. They are so clinical in their finishing, which is why they are where they are. It's also why I was thinking about this earlier. Like someone was asking, what's harder to win, the Champions League or the Premier League? And it got me thinking about Liverpool are kind of a cup team. In terms of the way that they play. They play high energy, high intensity, and they take their chances. They get a bit of luck quite often. Whereas City are just all about control. We create chance after chance after chance because we just wear down the opposition. I think that's going to change a little bit next season. I think we're going to create less, but we'll score more.
Interesting.
Because you're going to take a creative player out of the but we're going to score out of nowhere a lot more as well, because that's what Haaland does. Like a ball will go forward, he'll, outpace and outmuscle 2 centre halves and put it in the top corner. We've seen that kind of finish from him a lot already. So from that perspective, I think we'll see less creativity in terms of the number of chances that were created, but we'll see more goals just because the chances that we do create will be finished.
I will say this season, we actually are exceeding our XG overall in the league. Obviously, in the sense of we've scored more goals than we're kind of expected to. It's only by 4.5 goals. So it's not like a huge overperforming. Liverpool is actually dead even for theirs. But I do think, John, you're right overall that it does kind of change our ability to create something out of nothing. And just Haaland's dynamic is so different. I think there are more moments, and Asan talked about this on 90 through 20 of the day, but there's more kind of openness than I think we sometimes think in these games. But City just haven't had any kind of burst of speed to take advantage of that. And Haaland gives you, I think, a little bit more of that speed in those moments. And, you know, if a team does start to push against us, I wouldn't want to be the team that you have Haaland and De Bruyne sprinting at you kind of on a counter and you've got only 2 or 3 men back. I think
Just that thought makes me want to play the song.
Haaland, selbst die Bayern haben Angst, bald gedient das ganze Land. Haaland.
Sorry.
I do think, though, the big thing, Maul, you said about how does it help kind of some of these players who are being pushed into the kind of that forward role that aren't naturals at it, is I think now we're going to see less of the issue of where Bernardo, De Bruyne, and Rodri played every game because all the other forwards had to put in shifts up top because we're short a striker, and when Torres left, we were short another winger. So when you bring in Haaland and Alvarez, suddenly now you have guys like Grealish and Foden that can take minutes out of the midfield, and so that you can keep those legs more fresh. And then you can still play them up top if you want to, but it actually allows you to use your midfielders in midfield, as opposed to every match it felt like we were playing 4 of our 5 like top quality midfielders.
All right, 2 more things on Haaland, and then we'll take a break. All right, the first one, what's that famous saying about? Is it a rising tide lifts all boats? Something like that.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, get in.
Nailed it.
Come on. I feel like Haaland is a rising tide, and I want to talk about who do you think is going to get the biggest lift in their performance from Haaland coming in. So there may be 2 or 3 people on your list. Let's start with you, Andrew.
It's Raheem Sterling, and it won't even be close. If he stays at City, and I think he will. I think actually Haaland coming in is going to be the thing that keeps Sterling at City long term. The best versions of Raheem Sterling have always been when there is a focal point of the attack that Raheem can play off of. He has looked phenomenal for England when he plays with Harry Kane. He looked phenomenal when we had Sergio Aguero leading the line. I think Raheem Sterling, and not that he's necessarily been bad these past couple of years, but anyone who looks at him and says he's not the same player, he's been underperforming, it's because we're not playing a system that suits kind of his skill set the most, that allows him to get the most out of him. And so I think in terms of not just someone like you're going to see their stats go up, like De Bruyne's obviously going to get more assists now because Haaland is there to finish them. But in terms of the actual kind of output and the way that they play, hands down for me, Raheem Sterling is going to be the perfect winger to play with Erling Haaland.
Only if, you mentioned England. He's thrived in the England setup when they played 3 at the back and had wing backs. And he hasn't had to, he's been more central.
Which I hate.
Yeah. The wing back gets to the byline and puts the ball across the 6-yard box, and Raz is there to tap it in because his movement is incredible. I agree with a lot of people in the chat. Jack Grealish, for me, is going to have the biggest uplift because he, at the moment, he's playing a lot of great balls into the area. He's taking the ball, he's playing a lot of good balls in, but then City are doing the City thing where they put their back to goal, turn it back out, recycle it, go for the better chance. There are going to be at least 10 of those next season where Grealish puts that into the path of Haaland and he smacks it in on the half turn first time because he's a striker. So for me, Grealish is gonna profit most in the system that we currently have it. I can see your point, Andrew, around Sterling, but it's going to take a bigger system shift to accommodate that, I think.
I just keep replaying the Grealish almost goal against Real Madrid, and if
Mm.
Haaland was there, like that's a goal because he would have been in the right position.
He's
And
just
it
bigger
just-
than Foden. He just covers more surface area. The rebound when he just hit him.
All right, I've got some thoughts on this because I think you could list about 6 or 7 players. I appreciate you guys keeping it short. Do we? Were those your number 1 picks? I mean, isn't the obvious one KDB?
See, but I just don't. I don't. I think his stats go up, but I don't think you look at KDB and you say like, "Oh, he's going to be a totally different player." I think that.
Okay.
Yeah. So for
I
me,
think
like
Kev's
I was
already
thinking about it.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to
Like-
say that
like-
Kevin is already like at a stratospheric level. It's like who's
Okay.
going to get to Kevin's level?
Talking about biggest upside from where they are now. Okay, I can see it. I've got one for you, Riyad Mahrez. I'm having Jamie Vardy flashbacks, Leicester flashbacks. I know that a lot of that was in transition. Yeah, they played a lot in transition at Leicester, and there might not be that opportunity here. But I'm it's mouth watering to me. Riyad Mahrez with an actual striker. So him, I think Cancelo has an opportunity to put balls into the box and play off of a target man. I think that'll help him massively. But I agree in the main with the guys you've mentioned. So
Rodri will get
Is
more
this Johnny
assists next
Metallica
season
guy
as well.
trolling us, or is he?
oh Johnny's he's got a lot of opinions. Johnny.
He says this guy is not going to work out with Pep. It's an insane take. Truly.
He's just.
I don't know.
Just,
I mean,
he's just volume. He's like TalkSport. He throws it out on whatever sticks.
To be honest, in defense of Johnny, on my list of things that I worry about Haaland, which is not a long list or deep, that is probably at the top. But I'm not worried about it.
I get the
If you
idea.
ask me to list my worries, that would probably be first.
I get the people that like. I think I can see instinctually that you look at a guy like Haaland who had the super agent Raiola, and he's a world class talent at a very young age. But we're talking about a kid who is smart enough to say, "No, I don't want to go from mold to, a big European team and sit in their academy for 4 to 5 years." He said, "I'm going to go to, RB Salzburg, where I'm going to work in one of the best sporting systems in the world." And then they go to Dortmund. And, the reason he went to Dortmund instead of other clubs was that Raiola was basically telling teams, if you want to sign him from Salzburg, you have to put in the transfer, or you have to put in a release clause after the first year that will kick in at this price, because the point was get him another stepping stone and then he goes to an elite club. Like, this is a kid who, between his dad and his now past agent, which, Raiola, he is unparalleled in what he did in European football. But I think the one thing you can say is that he did always care about kind of the outcome for his players. And Haaland, between his dad and his own work ethic, like, I don't see the concern that his kid's going to show up and like not want to work. He's coming to City because he wants to be the greatest striker the world has ever known. And he was like, no one better to do that than Pep Guardiola. And
agree with that.
If he leaves after 5 years, like, that sucks, but like, we've gotten him for 5 years and maybe he just decides to stay. And that's really cool too.
Yeah, like Pep.
Oh, don't tempt me.
All right, lastly on Erling Haaland. Are us Yanks, going to be the first to set eyes on this lad in Houston?
I mean, you'd hope so. The season, July 20th is a lot later in preseason than, or a lot closer to the start of the season than it typically would be because of the World Cup. And so, we might have a Community Shield hopefully to play in as well. And so that, getting him into the system and warmed up. Honestly, I think they'll probably take a look at the surface. NRG. I mean, it's typically a good surface, but if they're not gonna put an asset out there, if he's gonna risk rolling an ankle in preseason on a dodgy surface when every surface in the UK is negotiated July in Blackpool. The old yeah, on the beach.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but hopefully so. I mean, even if it's like a 20-minute cameo, like to be, we saw Phil Foden's debut there. Let's
True.
let's see Erling
I
Haaland.
as someone who's also, I'm going to be attending both the Houston and the Green Bay matches. I could also see them wanting to roll him out against Bayern, because I'm sure Bayern's going to be a little bit miffed about.
Who isn't miffed? I mean, I'll say this. I mean, if going out with the Champions League in the semi-final means what has happened since that day, let's lose that Champions League semi-final every week.
Yeah, I will say I thoroughly enjoyed whoever the reporter you mentioned earlier, Malv, who is apparently close to the family, who's been trying to claim that he's not going to Real Madrid or City. He's going to go to Bayern. I talked to the family. Bayern's technical director has been talking for 2 months that we physically cannot financially afford Erling Haaland unless we sell Lewandowski for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And the only team that wants Lewandowski is Barca, who don't have a lot of money. So
since that fateful day, Liverpool drop points.
Hey.
United lose, get smashed. City beat Newcastle. Sign Haaland. And, rumors of a Pep extension. So, let's leave segment 1 there. We'll take a quick break and we will be right back on the Noisy Neighbors podcast. Okay, we're back on the Noisy Neighbors podcast. Mark Mulv is here. I'm joined by the lads from the Main Road Ramble. It's Andrew Detmer and John Ashley. And we are in segment 2 of what is essentially a Erling Haaland live show. Appreciate everybody who's joining in the chat. Sorry if I haven't read your message yet, but they are much appreciated. You always help us get through these things. So, in fact, there is breaking news. Haaland has been spotted outside Tony's chippy. He cannot decide on Cod or haddock. So
I don't think I've ever
John,
had
what's the
haddock.
answer?
Cod is probably
Definitely
the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever had haddock. I feel like I would just go with cod, but that's maybe I don't know.
They're very similar.
Opinion.
They are actually quite similar.
Cod and haddock isn't quite, the beef that like barm and muffin and all that is. So, you ever had a Haaland's meat pie, John?
Oh yeah, meat potato pie.
That needs to be Gingerwig. If Gingerwig is watching, those things that you mock up.
Forks, yeah.
Make a Haaland's meat pie logo. Mm. Use that. I'll take 10%. That's all. All right, we're gonna shift gears. The Haaland thing has been fun. It's a story we'll continue to track on these American Manchester City podcasts.
It's gonna stay fun.
You want to talk about the weekend a little bit, about Newcastle, just very high level, because we spent loads of time on Haaland. Just high level thoughts on the match, John?
I thought it was a really professional performance given what happened a few days earlier. Especially with the opportunities Liverpool gave us. I went into the game pretty worried that we were going to mess it up. And honestly, we could have messed it up. Newcastle should have scored first. And they had some big chances early on. And getting the goal when we got it was really important. Really, I think really underrated first goal to get an assist with a header and then finish the header the way they did. Really, really well finished. Great to see Laporte get on the score sheet. And clean sheet.
Swinging his arms about.
Yeah, swinging his arms about. Clean sheet.
Literal limbs.
Any of you two can do the arms thing or no?
No.
Want to do it on
no, I would
YouTube for the masses?
No.
Is that from where, Malv? You've got your pulse on the.
Yeah, I know what the kids are up to for sure. Yeah. No, never seen it. Never seen it before in my life, mate.
A Fortnite? Yeah, it could be a Fortnite.
He's apparently spelling his name, but I can't see it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean,
But yeah.
I feel like if no one can tell you're spelling your name, maybe it's not as effective as you think it is.
Yeah,
Other
I
thoughts,
just
John?
great performance. Great to see Raz get a couple of goals. And yeah, that third goal, made in England, finished in England, was just a thing of absolute beauty.
Yeah, it was a 5-goal sandwich made on sterling bread. Am I right? He
Yep.
scored the
That's
first and the
correct.
last. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great name for a podcast.
By the way, do you mean the fourth goal?
Yeah, sure.
John?
Pardon?
Did you mean the fourth goal from made in England?
No,
the
because
third goal is Rodri's rocket.
I meant fifth. I meant the last goal. I'm so used
Oh,
to
sorry.
three.
Okay,
The fifth goal when it was basically
Foden, Jack, and
Foden and Grealish just taking the piss, and then Sterling doing that instinctive finish that you talked about earlier, Andrew. Like giving that, and it'll put them in 99 times out of 100. The one time out of 100 is in Lyon.
Yeah.
Question
so
for
I will
you,
say
Andrew.
I had to listen. Oh, I was just going to say I had to listen to this because I was driving back from a wedding in Nashville. So I had the audio the whole way, but I did not have I couldn't see what was happening, which is a very nervy way to consume this match for the first little bit. Like you said, Newcastle does have that couple early chances. I will say I was supremely confident. I was like, there's no better team to play than Newcastle because they're not going to sit back because they're not at risk of going down. So it doesn't serve Eddie Howe long term to just like try to defend against City. So he was going to let them be open a little bit. So it wasn't like we weren't going to have chances. And I just felt like the guys were going to be up for it after kind of that heartbreaking loss. And I mean, it proved to be correct. I mean, really, this was an almost perfect match except for Diaz going down and then us having it confirmed that Stones and Walker are out the rest of the season.
Yeah, that has put a small damper on things, hasn't it? About the lineup, Andrew, you mentioned the front three that we played was Grealish, Jesus, and Sterling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you think? Oh, sorry, you mentioned that Newcastle were going to play pretty open, based on who their manager is now, and I think they've made it to mid-table, haven't they? Amazingly. I felt like that was the right forward line to play because of the space that we would have. Like, if they were going to be deeper, I'd prefer Mahrez against a deeper defending than Sterling. So I think with Wolves coming up, who are probably going to play that very deep low block, is my guess. I actually saw the home leg. I was there for the home game against Wolves, and it was probably some of the worst football I've ever seen in my life.
They're a weird team this season. They'll go on these streaks where they start to look really good. Their new manager is interesting. He's changed them a little bit. But yeah, they're like Newcastle just weren't going to sit deep. So I think it made sense, particularly some of the other guys you're talking about maybe starting have just also run themselves into the ground.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so to let Foden get, the fact Foden didn't have to play all 90 minutes. Like, that's a good thing for him. I think Mahrez didn't come on at all, did he?
No.
So I think again at the midweek we're talking probably Mahrez, Foden. I don't know who the third forward is, but I would bet those two start.
I imagine it'll be Sterling.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Sterling ran them ragged in the home one, and he probably should have had 4 or 5 penalties in that game, if I remember right. We finally did get one. I know people were unhappy with it, but I can comfortably say over the course of the 90 minutes, we should have gotten at least one.
Right. Yeah.
And in fact, it was Raheem who scored it. I think he went right down the middle. Yeah, ever confident.
I literally just read an article on this. Penalties down that are shot straight down the middle scored at a higher rate than any other kind of penalty.
That's mad.
It's because goalkeepers all move. No one stands still.
Wow.
I'd stand still. Mainly because wouldn't have reacted in time.
John, if average Premier League striker is taking penalties against you, a former keeper, he takes 100. Are you saving 1?
Yes, luckily.
Okay. Is one as confident as you would get?
Probably.
Because I don't think I have zero shot at saving any. This is not a judgment. I just
You
penalties
just
look
got to throw. You
incredibly
just
hard
got
to
to choose
save.
a direction, throw yourself, and just hope for the best.
Yeah.
Taking penalties was the one thing I could do on a football pitch. I never got on the pitch to do it. But I was the
There you
number
go.
one penalty taker for my high school. So on that amazing note, that Al Bundy reference, let's
Maul, I'm
we're already
curious
getting
for
in.
you because you're, you like John have grown up with City. I mean, how nervy were you? I mean, were you nervous about this match? Did you think City were gonna
Newcastle.
Yeah.
No, in fact, I wasn't. This is the one I was actually the most confident about of the remaining fixtures. And as we're about to talk about the remaining fixtures, let's take our last break and we'll do just that. Okay? We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Noisy Neighbors podcast. I had to play that song. I always play that song when we win by 5. So for those of you watching live, I already know what song I'm going to play there. So I hope you enjoyed it.
I certainly did.
Thank you, John.
All-time banger.
Thank
Sound
you,
of
Andrew.
Silence by Simon and Garfunkel, right?
So Andrew was leading us into this final segment before we took a break. So let's finish this off. Let's talk about these last 3 games and which ones we're most nervous about, how they might play out, the injuries, what does that do? So as I was just telling Andrew, I was most confident about the Newcastle game, looking at their position, looking at the way we mentally needed to rebound from what happened midweek. I had a feeling that we would. I had a feeling that somebody would pay the price for that chaos in Madrid. And it was Newcastle, thank God. Because I would not have wanted do you remember the Leicester Vincent Kompany goal?
I watched that with MCFC Milwaukee because I was at a work conference and there was one Liverpool guy in the bar.
Yeah.
And when the Kompany goal goes in, he just like chucks the chair across the bar, like slams down a 10 to pay for his pint and just storms out without another word. And I will never forget that moment.
So I'll give away my answer here because I think that's what's going to happen on Wednesday. It's going to be one of those. There's something about evening games against low block teams that is an awful, awful combination in my mind. I feel like it's going to take something like that again to get past Wolves. I know they're not that good, but I think back to Liverpool and Spurs at the weekend. That was that evening night game against the low block. And Liverpool couldn't manage it. They could only manage a draw. Thank God. So I know that we can get away with a draw in these last 3 matches. I'm afraid it might come here against Wolves. What are your thoughts on what I've said there, John?
I think in this instance, given that Liverpool dropped points the other day, I am kind of glad that Liverpool play first this time on this occasion.
Okay.
Like
particularly who they play.
Yeah, playing away at Villa, I like it. Could Gerrard didn't bend over for them in the last game.
There's just a lot of pressure on that team, anyways, John. Like you're saying, of like they've dropped points, so there's the pressure of like if they draw even one of their remaining matches, like that kind of probably ends the race. So there's a lot of pressure, but then to have all of the storylines and the media scrutiny and hype, and I mean. I don't know that is Henderson probably the only player on that Liverpool team that even played with Gerrard. So it's not like they like know him, but like he is still this figure that like looms over the club. And so, I mean, it is also that is the game that of the 2 teams, Liverpool or City have the lowest chance of winning. So Liverpool are only expected to win 65% of those matches.
Yeah, I think they're doing that off the basis of the table. in terms of and performances thus far this season. Wolves don't have as much to play for as West Ham do. West Ham can if West Ham win out, they go above United and finish sixth.
Well, West Ham is our hardest game. Actually, I take it back. Villa is our hardest game, followed by West Ham and then Wolves.
Interesting.
I disagree.
So no, I'm not saying that I agree with that. I'm saying that's how the odds makers have it.
Oh,
I would say West Ham, Wolves, Villa in order for me of concern.
No, weirdly I would say, I mean, if it's still a thing against Villa, then that's number one for me. That's the contingent. But then at the other two, I would go Wolves and West Ham, just because I feel like West Ham play more open football, and it's potentially going to be like a 4-2.
I just think they're more
like
I think they're better able to take advantage of us having defensive issues than Wolves are. And I don't like City's odds when we get into a shootout. Villa, I think we're going to kind of be clear of injury issues, hopefully at that point, to where we do have two actual center backs on the pitch. But I think the thing for me that concerns me the most, kind of looking across those three matches, and like why I don't worry about Villa, is that if we win the next two, like that Villa match is not, I mean, it is not as important. Like if we beat Wolves and we beat West Ham, even if Liverpool don't drop any more points, they're going to have to somehow eclipse our goal differential lead across these matches, which I don't think is, I mean, they do play Southampton, so they could score 9 goals, but like also Southampton has been a weird side for Liverpool across all of Klopp's time. But at the end of the day, like it's going to be a lot like the final day of the 14-15 season, where Liverpool need City to lose by multiple goals and they need to win by 5 to have a shot.
See, this is the difference between the two podcasts, right? You've got Andrew here and John here looking at, which is the hardest game. Andrew's looking at odds. John's talking about tactics. I'm thinking about how much sunlight is available on the day. That's where I'm coming from. I'm saying Wolves, no sunlight. That's trouble.
Won't be that dark at that time in May in England. Might not get dark till the second half. As long as they have a good first half performance, we'll be all right. But yeah, I think for me the big fear. I mean, going into Wolves, we know about the defensive shortage. So someone's going to be playing out of position. It's probably going to be Rodri. I think it would be Rodri at centre half.
That's what I would do.
Fernandinho. Fernandinho probably then plays DM.
I think you're looking at I think you're probably looking at from left to right: Zinchenko, Laporte, Rodri, Cancelo, double pivot of Gundogan, Fernandinho, De Bruyne.
Bernardo didn't play the other day.
Oh, right. Sorry, I skipped over Bernardo. Sorry, Fernandinho, Bernardo as a double pivot. De Bruyne ahead of them, and then, like we said, Sterling, Foden, Mahrez probably. Which, I'm other than Rodri paying out of position, that's not a bad side.
No, I disagree with you guys. I think it'll be Fernandinho, just because
I don't want to see him against the Wolves counterattack.
But yeah, I think he's quicker than Rodri. Still.
But that's the thing, is that I think that we don't want to be playing a high line, or that higher line, and we want, you kind of want to be you want to be, if you're going to play with someone who isn't a centre back, you want someone who you want to be compensating for that. And Fernandinho will be like, "I'll be all right, guys. I can step up against Vinicius Jr., but whoever, and it'll be fine." And that doesn't work. I think
Rodri knows he's slow.
Limitations.
Yeah. I was gonna say Rodri knows that he's slow. Ferna, I don't think has realized that Father Time has come for him.
Delusional Fernandinho. Oh, listen, I'm just gonna kick it to the chat quickly, and then we're gonna wrap this up because I have to bounce. So let's see. Old Plank Works says that West Ham scare me the most.
Looks like it's kind of split in the chat between Wolves and.
Yeah, Johnny Metallica says we haven't heard of Trincao. Trincao looks a player to me after watching the highlights from the weekend. Paco Somoza is loving the River kit, Andrew. Let's see. Victoria, hiya Vic. She is saying she's most concerned about West Ham. Interesting. Again, I go back to my amount of sunlight. This time of year, I always think about City sort of strolling the last few games of the season in bright sunshine. For some reason, don't know. There's probably something to it. So I'm with you. No, I'm not with you, Vic. Sorry, I'm on the Wolves thing. Roger Lee thinks the hardest game is Wolves. Let's see. Jay is tranquilo. Love to see it, Jay. Thank you, mate. Let's see. The Early Bert podcast is meant to be decent. New one on the scene. Very well. Patrick, big up the Early Berts.
Does the early Bert get the worm?
Stupid.
I think isn't that the joke?
I'm just finishing the name of their podcast. I was trying to come up with a City player name or some kind of word that was close to worm, but I couldn't in the brief moment I had.
All right. Well, there you go. Let's wrap it up there. That was great. One more time. Hype train. Let's go.
Haaland, selbst die Bayern haben Angst, bald gewinnt das ganze Land. Haaland, hey, Haaland, gestern war ja unbekannt.
Do we think City absolutely just screws up the announcement, like it's entirely like just not in any way exciting?
I think somebody else. I think Dortmund's going to beat us to it, and we'll have some kind of very run-of-the-mill thing.
Stephen McInerney put out today, he's like, I just want to see Haaland on a couch in next year's kit in that position that he's in. And I was like, that's all you need to do.
It's too obvious for City. It's too obvious.
Or even just like do video. It's like a video where it's his dad playing for City, and then you cut to like clips. Like just,
nice.
Like there's so many good things you can do. And I just know we're going to get a dubstep video countdown. And then he's just going to appear out of smoke.
That's the 0.1% that I'm concerned about, is that we've accidentally signed his dad again.
Oh, shoot. Okay. This has been the Noisy Neighbors podcast. These have been my guests, Andrew Detmer and John. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Cheers.
And we'll be back soon. My co-host Joey will be back, and we'll be doing another pod. We'll get that out in front of you. This will be a podcast as well. You can catch us on Twitter at Noisy Pod. You can catch these on Twitter as well at Main Road Ramble. Check out These Boys podcast. Brilliant stuff. Another American podcast. We're going to be linking up soon. When City come to Houston, we'll be doing more of this type of thing, and more of some other things as well. So looking forward to that. So thanks to everybody for listening and watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of that business. And until next time, ta-ra.